I slept with the driver on a bus trip. My fiancé got the video and ended our engagement. My fiancé has ended our engagement. And not just end our engagement, but ruin me completely too. I have no friends, no family, no support whatsoever from anybody, and I'm all alone in this world. But yet, I cannot say I didn't get the signs. I should have listened to my inner mind screaming the consequences, but I refused. I blocked my ears and gave myself valid reasons for doing the things that I was doing, and now I'm really all alone. Jordan loved me. I knew that. He was simply the best man any woman could ask for. He gave me everything, and all I did was ruin it. We got engaged last year and had been waiting for me to be done with school before we got married. It was all my idea because I didn't exactly like being a married woman while still schooling. Although it was probably because I didn't want to be tied to wedding vows while I still could get the chance to enjoy my days in school. But when I gave excuses of not wanting distractions, Jordan had willingly obliged. Although the only thing that we didn't do was get married, because we literally did everything that married couples did. I lived with Jordan in his apartment, and he catered for everything for us, including my school fees. He was the perfect man for me, and I really wanted to marry Jordan. I still do, to be honest, but I know it cannot happen, not after everything I've done. I was stupid. I was selfish and greedy, and I wanted everything for myself. I wanted to be Jordan's fiancé and also have Chase on the side, but sadly I ended up with nothing at all. I really never planned to cheat on Jordan. I really did love him and was faithful to him at first. I turned down every guy's attempt to date me, even though I allowed the flirting bit. It wasn't their fault that they thought I was single because I made them believe so. None of my friends on campus knew Jordan. I always managed to avoid them meeting, and I was really successful at doing so. I lied to my friends about having really rich parents who were strict and didn't like having people around. They believed me. I spent way too much money on our outings to be doubted. During the week, I stayed on campus, and on weekends I went home to Jordan. Jordan was quite comfortable with it because he was usually busy too during the week with his demanding job. But despite how demanding and time-consuming his work was, I never lacked Jordan's attention. He texted or called every night while I'm on campus, even though I mostly never answered his calls. I preferred texting because it helped in not blowing my cover, but still I really didn't cheat on him. Well, until I met Chase. I studied tourism and hospitality management in school, so going on trips was usually normal for us. Most times we were being graded for those trips. The school had a bus and a driver assigned to us for those trips due to the influence of our lecturers. The driver who had always taken us suddenly decided to quit, and the school had to employ a new person, which turned out to be Chase. It wasn't really hard to notice him because of how young he seemed, and how easily he managed to get everyone to like him. Although it was later I got to find out that he was already married and had 3 kids. But that hadn't even stopped us from doing the stupid things that we did together. I won't even lie at this point, I was also interested in him because of how handsome he looked. And when on the first trip he took us on, he asked for my number. I was so excited, and I would respond almost immediately to his text. Although Chase had nothing in comparison with Jordan, I still couldn't stop thinking about Chase, especially after he started texting me. We would chat and talk all day. He was easy to talk to. I found myself telling him everything, including things about Jordan and our relationship. I even told him about our sexual life and how I never really had an orgasm whenever we had sex. I know I wasn't supposed to tell him things like that, but Chase just made me feel so safe, and I was telling him every secret of mine, including the ones my friends didn't know. Chase would tell me how much he wished I was his, and how right he would treat me if I were. Our relationship just somehow went beyond friendship, and I really cannot explain it. One week we were just chatting, and the next we were exchanging dirty texts, and then soon after that nudes of each other. And stupidly, I liked it very much. I liked it to the point of having sleepless nights, just so I could stay awake to talk to Chase while Jordan was asleep. Chase told me how much he dreamed of our first time together, and wished that we could meet somewhere to do the real thing instead of just talking about it. But I was scared. In my head, doing the real thing was the real cheating, and not what I was doing already. I was scared that Jordan would find out, or that anybody else would. So I kept putting it off until Chase got to me so badly, I eventually gave in. Although I gave him a condition, and it was that we chose somewhere far away, and Chase had willingly agreed. The first time with Chase was in a hotel, which I paid for, on the outskirts of town, far enough from Jordan's apartment and also from school. I lied about having an assignment to do, and that we were divided into groups for it, so I would have to stay in school all day to get it done. Jordan believed me and even offered to drive me to school that day, but I refused the offer and I went alone. Of course, to meet with Chase and not school. Chase was so excited to see me, and we finally did it. We had sex, and at that moment, I really thought that it was the right decision I made. I liked it. I liked it so much that we ended up spending the whole day together in that hotel room before I left for the house. I remember that first day that I spent with Chase in the evening. I fought with Jordan. He was trying to touch me that evening, and I slapped off his hands and called him insensitive, because he knew that I would be exhausted from schoolwork. I continued sleeping around with Chase anytime we got the opportunity to. But a month after, we were on break, and I didn't have any real excuse to go out. Duran didn't know any of my friends, and I didn't want him to doubt me if I used them as excuses to go out. And coincidentally, Jordan was on leave from work, and so it made everything more complicated. Chase kept getting impatient to spend time with me, and I wanted the same thing, so when Chase suggested that we went on a trip together, I liked the idea. But when I told him that I didn't know what to tell Jordan, so I could get out of the house, he told me to lie about having a school trip. I did exactly as he told me to, and I lied about having an important school trip to go on. Jordan didn't believe me at first. In his words, we were on a break, and an impromptu trip was something that shouldn't be happening. But I managed to convince him that it was true. I told him that it was very important and that I couldn't not go. Eventually, Jordan allowed me. He even paid for the trip when I told him we had to pay. Although I used the money he gave me to book a hotel room, I thought everything was going perfectly according to my plan. What I didn't know was that Jordan had seen the receipt of the payment I made because I used his card. He had given me his card to pay for whatever I wanted, and I honestly forgot that he got the notifications for any payment. To make everything even more believable, I even begged Chase to pick me up from the junction that was close to the house with the official school's bus that he was given, so that Jordan didn't doubt me. I even had Jordan escort me to the place where the bus was picking me up. Jordan had asked about the other students, and I lied to him that the driver would probably pick the rest of us up as we went. I waved Jordan goodbye as soon as I entered the bus and watched him watch us as Chase sped off. But that day before we got to the hotel we booked for the trip, we had done something really stupid, something that I regret every time now. I had been so excited about the trip and the thought of getting away with what we were doing that we had done something really stupid, and the worst part? I was the one who suggested it. I was feeling rather tipsy from the alcohol that Chase had brought along with him, and then I started to feel really horny, and so I suggested that he stop by the roadside so we could do something fun. The road was pretty abandoned, so Chase hadn't opposed it, and he was pretty excited for it too. We went to the back of the bus, and then just when Chase stayed to reach for my clothes, I suggested something even more stupid. I don't know what I was thinking. I feel really stupid that I did what I did. I told him that I wanted to record the moment because it made it even more erotic. Chase hesitated at first. He was worried someone would get access to such a video and would begin to threaten us with it, and he didn't want that because of his family and career, which would be on the line too. But I assured him that before we went back home, I would delete it, and he agreed to it. I placed my phone on the bus's board and I started a video, recording us having sex in the passenger seat. After about 30 to 40 minutes, we were done, and then we proceeded on our trip. We spent 3 days on that trip, and I made sure that we explored the city, even though our trips were mostly cut short by Chase's insistence on going back to the hotel room we booked to continue the fun there. Whenever Jordan called, I mostly ignored him and would then text him that I was with the others and we were receiving a lecture on the tour and couldn't excuse myself. And when he called at night, my phone was usually switched off on purpose. I didn't want him disturbing what I was doing with Chase. And when it was finally time to go back home, I ensured that Chase dropped me a few blocks away from the house where he had picked me up from when we went on the trip, because I didn't want Jordan to question anything. Jordan, however, was a different person when I came back from the trip, but I didn't notice at first. It was only when he stopped sleeping at home and never even called to give his excuses, despite the fact that he knew I was on break and would be home all day. He was ignoring me, and instead of thinking wisely, I concluded that it was probably his work stressing him out, and so I left him alone and continued. Jordan being at home less gave me the opportunity to visit Chase even more in our regular spots. So I really didn't bother much with Jordan. I was so certain that he didn't suspect a thing, but everything came crashing down one day, and remembering that day still gives me nightmares. Then, after 2 weeks of ignoring me, Jordan started staying at home again. He pretended like nothing happened and that we were happy. Instead of being surprised by the sudden change again, I felt pride. I thought he finally realized that he couldn't live without me, and so I just snubbed him at first, but Jordan apologized to me, and then I forgave him, and we went back to our usual routines. Maybe if I had been sensitive to realize that Jordan had changed so much. I should have suspected that he knew, or maybe if I had deleted that video without keeping it, I wouldn't be in this mess at all. But I had instead focused on my selfish acts because Jordan being at home again meant I couldn't see Chase anymore. I just stayed at home and did nothing but sleep, eat, and spent time with my assumed not-so-suspicious Jordan. But little did I know that Jordan had a plan, and I was playing perfectly into his hands. He had somehow found out I was cheating and wanted to get evidence before he came out with it all, and I made it pretty easy for him. I was so sure that I was getting away with everything, and that Jordan loved me so much that he couldn't suspect that I was cheating on him. The video I made of Chase and I in the car that day was still on my phone. I didn't delete it even though I had promised Chase that I would. I don't know why I thought it was a sane idea to keep something like that on my phone, but I had, and that had been my worst mistake. Because somehow Jordan got access to the video and took it from my phone and then deleted it from my phone, so he would be the one with the only copy. I was still clueless the next day when I woke up, but something felt different. I wasn't sleeping in the room I shared with Jordan. I was in another room. It was only after some minutes had passed and my hangover was passing that I realized that I was in the guest room. I was surprised when I found myself there. The night before that morning, I had been drinking with Jordan when he wanted us to celebrate his big news, which he promised he would only reveal the next day. And I had drank with him, imagining the big surprise to be my dream car that I've been bagging him for. Now that I think back, I realize that Jordan had purposely designed that occasion to ruin me. He didn't drink as much as I did that night, and he kept filling my glass while we talked. I remember talking, and then I blacked out. Jordan didn't come home until that evening, and when he came back, he was smiling in a cold and sinister way that made my skin crawl. I tried to ignore the look on his face, and I asked him why he left me in the guest room when he could have easily taken me to our bedroom. Jordan didn't answer me. Rather, he had tossed his phone to me and was confused. I looked at what was on it, and instantly I froze. It was the video I recorded of Chase and I on the road trip. The same one I was so confident he wasn't ever going to find out about because it was supposed to be safely on my phone. My body felt cold and hot at the same time. My mouth kept opening and closing, and for the first time my throat suddenly felt like it was dry. The words were scattered in my brain, and I couldn't seem to pick one of them to say. Jordan watched me with a blank look on his face. It was then he told me how he had found out. He said I thought I was smart, but I wasn't. He said sarcastically that the bus driver must have been so appealing that I had slept with him on the bus. He told me that when he had followed me that day and had seen me alone in the bus with the bus driver, especially after finding out that I booked a hotel room when usually the school organized a place for us, he had decided to get the truth I couldn't give him from someone else. Turns out Jordan had reached out to one of my friends that I hung out with in school from my social media account, and he texted her telling her that he was my boyfriend. My friend hadn't believed him because I had of course not introduced them together until he sent her pictures of us together and even our engagement video. She had told him that I lied, that I wasn't in a relationship, and how I lived with my supposed political parents who paid for everything I had in school, and she had even slandered me further, that she suspected my relationship with Chase. When Jordan asked her if she was supposed to be on a trip with us, she told him she wasn't aware of any trip, and so were the other 30 students, as opposed to the number I told Jordan that we were. Jordan found out through her that although Chase was a bus driver, there was never a trip planned. At least not the school trip I told him about. Jordan told me that he wanted his revenge because he wasn't going to be satisfied with just ending our engagement. So he planned something bigger for me. something that would ruin me totally and teach me a big lesson on not messing with wrong people. Jordan told me how he had gotten the evidence off my phone after I unlocked it for him while drunk, and told me that I will probably be trending in my school the next day because he had handed the video over to the same girl to help post it anonymously on our school's platform. I was shocked and horrified, but instead of pity, I could tell that Jordan was disgusted by my actions, and he only just looked me in the eye as he explained bit by bit how meticulously he planned and how arrogantly I had fallen into his trap. Suddenly it felt like my legs couldn't hold me anymore because I fell to the floor and was crying so hard and shaking badly too. Jordan told me that he was ending our engagement and also sending a copy of my shame to my parents so they could see what a disgrace I had become. Then he told me that he gave me tonight to get everything I had and leave his house. It was then my body suddenly went into action. I quickly went on my knees and held onto his clothes, begging him for forgiveness. I told him that I was willing to change and swore never to cheat on him again. But Jordan wasn't listening to me. He only pushed me aside and went into the room and locked it after him. I cried all night and kept praying that he had a change of heart overnight, even though I knew that was impossible. True to Jordan's words, by the afternoon of the next day, I was trending in school and on some social media platform. I was tagged several times that I had to delete my social media accounts. I was called a lot of colorful adjectives, and it was simply awful. What was even more terrible was the fact that when I kept trying to plead with Jordan that morning not to throw me out and give me a second chance, he got the security of the apartment to come up and help throw out my things. He felt nothing for me except hatred and bitterness. I could see it in his eyes as he watched me with my swollen eyeballs begging for mercy before he finally shut the door on me. Going back to my parents wasn't an option. My mom had been clear in her text to me that she didn't want to see me anymore, and my sister blocked my number. There were none of my friends who wanted to see me, and I had no choice but to sell more than half of my dresses and get cheaper ones so I could rent a room for me to live in. All my text messages, the calls, and every other attempt to reach out to Jordan was futile. He had cut me off totally, and it was simply just awful. I didn't have any idea what to do. My education was also over because the school decided to let me go. I didn't even get a chance to defend myself. Not that I had any means of even doing so if I got the chance to. The video already did the speaking for me, and I was expelled from school in my final year. It was obvious they had made their decision. No amount of begging did the trick. It felt like everything and everyone was against me all at once. Chase was also fired from his job as a driver, especially because he used the school's bus for personal use. That dreadful video spread around the school and even on the internet, and the school wanted their school untouched by our mistakes. I couldn't even go to the campus to take my stuff that was there. I was scared of people seeing me. I didn't want to see people publicly insulting or scorning me. Chase was so angry and kept threatening to ruin my life even further because of how I had destroyed his life. I wasn't bothered by it. I felt like my life was already over. There's literally nothing else to lose. I lost everything already. My degree, my friends, my family, and most painfully, the life I thought I could have, which would have been possible if I hadn't cheated on Jordan the way I had done. I know regretting won't change anything, but I cannot help but wonder about the choices I made and how I could have done better. I know they say time heals wounds, but I don't think time can fix any of these. It's been 1 month already, and yet when I coincidentally run into one of the people I used to know, they still look at me in disgust and whisper, probably resharing the story to yet another person. Jordan still hates me so much that he not only sold his house and moved away to another place, but outside the country entirely. Apparently he got promoted at work, and he had to move. I knew that because his friend, whom I ran into 3 days ago, decided to inform me about it to taunt me further. I remember his parting words had been, "You would have gone with him, but..." Never try to take people who love you for granted, because when you do, you will probably end up like me or a version of me. I learnt that the hard way. This loneliness and emptiness, and the silence too, is so overwhelming, and every day feels like a new and different type of torture. I don't think I will ever recover from this. Maybe I will heal, maybe in months, years, or never,